In this short video I'm going to show you how I set up a new set of Cowstails for SRT. I've got a couple of screwgate carabiners and I've got 2.5 metres of 10mm dynamic rope here, just because I know that's the length that works for me. If you're taller you'll probably want a bit more. You can generally only buy it in full metre lengths anyway, so if you grab 3 metres you can always cut off any excess a little bit later once you've had a couple of tries with the Cowstails and you know the lengths are fine. To start with then, I'm just going to tie one end of my rope onto one of my carabiners. I'm going to use a scaffold knot here, so this is one of the variations on the barrel knots as cavers typically call them. As I do this, I want to make sure I've got at least 10cm of tail protruding from the knot, so that's about a fistful there. I'm going to get that nice and neat and tight, and then I'm going to slide that right up against the carabiner and give it a good tug to set it. So this hand tightening helps the knot grip and also takes some of the stretch and tightening out of the rope. If I leave these knots really slack, the first time I go out and I hang on them, they're going to stretch and going to double the lengths of my Cowstails. So I'm not absolutely kind of heaving on this, I'm just making sure it's bound up nice and snug on there. For SRT Cowstails we typically have a short Cowstail and a long Cowstail. For a short Cowstail, for me, usually ends up under my chin. Next stop is going to be my centre knot. So if I position the carabiner where I want it, as the rope drops down in front of my D-mail, if I grab the rope where it crosses the D-mail for the first time, and then I'm going to add about 20-25 centimetres along, and now where I'm pinching is going to be the centre of my figure of 8 knot. So if I give that a little bit of a tie there, we end up with what looks initially to be quite a short little Cowstail length, but remember that's going to stretch and tighten up a little bit. Now you don't necessarily have to have your harness on when you're tying your Cowstails. It can certainly help get those length adjustments right, so it's something you might want to do if this is your first time putting a set of tails together, but even if it's your 100th like mine, it still just makes life a little bit easier anyway. So now let's have a look at the length of that short Cowstail. So that is a bit short, but as I pull up on that and tighten that figure of 8 down, you see as that knot settles, that's now going to end up under my chin. First time I hang on this, I'm probably going to get another couple of inches of stretch on that anyway, so I'm quite happy with that length as a starting point. So that should be my short one all done, so we can clip that to the side of my harness. I've got the other end of the rope now. I'm going to take my other carabiner and I'm going to tie that onto the end of the rope with the same scaffold knot. So that's a 3-turn variation. If you need a bit more rope, you can just do a 2-turn, what we call a poacher's knot, and that uses a little bit less. And again, fistful of tail, slide that up against the knot, and just before I kind of properly set this, I'm going to just check the length on that. So that's probably a little bit long for me now. Once that's tightened up, that's going to be a little bit higher than I'm kind of comfortably want it. I tend to aim to have it around my forehead, with a little bit of stretch. That might be just above my head, but it means I'm comfortably in reach of that traverse line or whatever it is I'm hanging from. If I'm generally intending to hang on something, I'll use my shorter Cowstail because that keeps me positioned nice and close and tight to where I want to be. But of course there's always a chance of a little slip ending up on my long Cowstail. Now you might prefer a longer Cowstail on yours than me, and that's absolutely fine. There's a load of personal variations we can make to these just to suit your style and preferences. But for me that's just a little bit long. So if I just untie that scaffold knot, keep it pinched where it was, now I can take in a little bit more rope and then retie the knot. There we go. Now because we just kept wrapping round and round and round, I could use up even more rope, but they get quite bulky and not really as user friendly to untie periodically either. So now I'm a bit more happy with the length of that. I can set that, put a bit of weight on it, make sure we're all dressed neatly. I've got plenty of tail now, and lengthwise that's looking much better for me. So against my forehead, I know that when I hang on that I'm still comfortably going to be able to reach wherever that's clipped to. So if I put these both up next to one another, you can see we've got my short Cowstail under my chin, my long one around forehead. You know, Really long cowstails don't give you a great deal of benefit apart from how far you can kind of reach away from the thing you were clipped to, but I always like to think about what happens if I end up hanging on my tails, because it happens. Hanging on my short one, no problem at all. In fact, most of the traverses that we get rigged should ideally end up with a rope around shoulder height, so even the short one looking short actually is going to be pretty much perfect for that. The long one just gives me some reach to go between intermediate anchors, or typically we'd leave this on the Y-hang slack while we do our 2-inch test on the descender, and it remains slack so that once we've done our test we can easily take that off and carry on down. If that was really short, then I'd have to step up again and remove it, which isn't the end of the world, but it's just more effort and more calories burned than was necessary for that manoeuvre. So I find kind of this forehead length is absolutely fine for me. It's kind of the best balance of between having a good reach but also staying within reach of what I'm hanging on if I need to. So there is a big article over on my blog that goes into Cowstails in quite a lot of depth. I'll talk about stitched lanyards, lanyards with adjusters, or the different variations of knotted Cowstails like this, the different personal tweaks you can make, different type of carabiners and stuff like that. So if you want to get a real deep dive into Cowstails for caving, then definitely go and check that out. But if you start in with your first SRT kit, make up your first set of Cowstails, then just going for a set of lengths similar to that will get you going. You'll be able to do all the manoeuvres you need to do, and then you can go on to make your personal tweaks as you become more confident and you know kind of what works best for you. Thanks for watching.